Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Thank you all for being here. Excuse me. If you guys can't hear me okay, or there's any issues, let me know and I'll fix them up for you. So the extended version, so here we have Lilly and Jack Sullivan. We're also going to take a look at Darius because Darius has not been found yet. And I was hoping they were going to find him, but I think today is day 6. So the weather's a little bit better for him than Lilly and Jack. Thank goodness we're having beautiful weather here in Canada for the fall season so far. But it's on day 6, so that's not good, obviously. But the last I heard, and I believe that was 2 days ago, that they believe that he, at that time, is possibly, still alive. Yeah. So hi, Tammy, and hi, everyone else. Kim and Ginger and Kent and Jules and Ariel and Mark. Thanks for popping in, Mark. Solace, thank you all, and to everyone else that's here as well. Sharon, hi, Sharon. Yeah. So, and then we're going to move on to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. So Lily's 6, Jack is 4. Last seen May 1st, 2025, on video, CCTV at Dollarama, as we all know by now. Reported missing May 2nd, 2025. Excuse me. On Garlock Road, Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, $150,000 reward. And here, I'll put the banner up for that too with the number and whatnot on it. So the extended version of the CBC interview come out today. I received it on my phone actually a while ago, but I had company here and I was like, "Oh, is that an extended version or just the one I already uh, saw?" And pretty much probably all of us saw. And that was the one with Sunny on it. It started out with Sunny and whatnot. Well, this here is another part of that, an extension of that. And then the officer also, she's asking him questions about Allie is asking him questions, the detective, about Lily and Jack as well. So he discusses that as well. So we'll get into that. Let's just take a look at Darius here for a minute. I don't get the feeling that there's anything nefarious going on in this case with Darius. I certainly hope not. But we just have to keep him in our thoughts, and for those that believe in prayer, because he's out there. He's out there now, whether it's going to end up being a recovery or, they do find him in time. We're not going to know, I guess, until they find him. So I thought this was interesting and sad. So searchers are, let me bring that up a little bit better for you guys to see that. Yeah, searchers using favorite song to draw missing boy out of Alberta wilderness. Now, he is autistic. Now with Lily and Jack, they were not diagnosed autistic. But it was stated that they could be autistic. And he is a lack of verbal communication. So it's pretty difficult. So, yeah, so they're playing his. This makes me a little teary eyed, and I'm sorry, but when I first opened it up, I kind of started crying because it just breaks my heart, right? Like, they got to play this song to try to get this little fella to come to them, right? Because if I mean, children can become afraid anyways, but then with the autism, it's going to make things more difficult. So they're trying to use his favorite song. So searchers are hoping the lilt of a familiar song will draw a 6-year-old boy out of the woods after he vanished from a southern Alberta campground Sunday. Crown's Nest Pass, and I mean, look at the terrain there as well, and the density. Little children go missing very quickly, and because they're small too. Yeah, very difficult to locate. Searchers are okay, sorry, I read that. Adam Kennedy of Alberta Search and Rescue says crews are employing several tactics in looking for Darius McDougall, who has autism. They include avoiding loud noises or bright lights at night. Man, that's difficult. The priorities remain pushing further out routes that Darius may have traveled on while continuing to cover areas previously searched, Kennedy told reporters Thursday. As the search hit its 5th day, Kennedy said there have been no discussions of scaling back efforts to find the boy. Well, that's good. Now, the only difference with the Lilly and Jack Sullivan, it was the weather for sure. I mean, everything else, as far as the terrain, the density, I think he might have more water surrounding him, which could be a good or a bad thing. Yeah. We are still working on the assumption that Darius is alive, Kennedy said. Ground crews spent the night scouring the area with support from drones, helicopters, and police dogs, he said. Temperatures overnight reached a low of about 3 degrees. Well, that's pretty chilly for a little one. There are approximately 120 personnel on the scene from across Alberta and British Columbia continuing the ground search, he said. RCMP Corporal Gina Slaney said crews haven't found anything that could belong to Darius in the search, such as torn clothing or footprints. Okay, so that's kind of interesting because they didn't with Lilly&Jack either. Kennedy said method. Kennedy said one method searchers hope will work involves playing one of the boys' favorite songs, but the official didn't say what that tune is. RCMP have said Darius didn't return from a walk with several young family members to their campsite in the Crown's Nest Pass area of the Rocky Mountains, but police have not publicly outlined the circumstances that led Darius to be separated from the group, the age of the family members who were with him at the time, or other details about his sorry, did I miss something there? But police have not publicly outlined the circumstances that led Darius to be separated from the group, the age of the family members who were with him at the time, or other details about his disappearance. Slaney said police are continuing interviews that could help lead searchers in the boys' direction. Police do not believe foul play is involved. Police initially said Darius, now that's something that has never been said about Lilly&Jack's case that I'm aware of. No, I don't know if you guys remember anything different. Type it in the chat, but I don't remember that ever being said. Police initially said Darius was 5 due to an error made at the beginning of the search. This report by the Canadian Press was first published September 25th, 2025. Yeah, so that's another sad case for sure. All right, now let's go over. I hope everyone's doing well there. Welcome to anybody new that came in that I missed. Hi, Cheryl, Offspree. Did I miss anybody else? I think I got the rest of you. All right, now let's go over to this extended version of the interview. I'm probably going to stop in some places just when a thought pops into my head. You guys feel free to chat about it as you're listening. Yeah, and I'll just stop here and there. It is 24 minutes long, so it's quite an extended version. And I don't know how long the other one was, but it was pretty long too. And it does show a little bit of Sunny in it again quickly, not like the other part.
The rise in true crime podcasts and the rise in followings and people participating in our investigations, there is a benefit. There's for sure a benefit. We've seen the benefit on our investigations previously. The difficulty just becomes when people, take everything that comes out.
So one thing I will say, I'm happy that they put this extended version out, the extension of the first part out, because he is talking more about their feeling on, us YouTubers and the channels we have covering cases, and they actually seem pretty happy with it. I was surprised because he goes into it more than he did in the first in the first video.
Out of these as proven fact.
Many YouTube shows, true crime shows, have been discussing the case of Lilly&Jack. In general, how can these types of shows impact a police investigation?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. You're right. Lilly&Jack is, it's two young children that are missing. So the draw is not just here at home, like it's all over the country. It's international, as you said. So it's a bit of a special circumstance, just given the attention to it. But there are a lot of our investigations, not just missing people, but homicide investigations that do draw quite a crowd. Especially we look at some of the like our cold cases, I suppose, if you want to refer to them that way. That obviously there's a lot of people that talk about them, people trying to find out information, that kind of stuff. The biggest difficulty that we have when it comes to information that's shared on podcasts, YouTube, that kind of thing, is that as much as some of the information may be accurate, a lot of it gets clouded in information that's not factual, so it's not based on any type of fact. Terms of for the police, when we're guiding where our investigations go, we have to operate in fact. And if we're dealing with information that may not be factual, we have to take, so every time a tip comes in, we have to take investigators that will then go look at that tip. We have to determine, one, is it relevant to our investigation? And two, what is the likelihood that this is factual information versus not factual? So if we look at things that are like, we know, this specific tip, the information that's included in it, we believe that information to be true based on other information we've gathered, or is it likely to be true, or is it unlikely to be true, or is it just not based in fact at all? Every single tip we get then has to be followed up on. Even if we don't believe it to be factually accurate, we still have to follow up. We still have to do our due diligence. So getting tips can move an investigation forward for sure. But when we start to get to the point where some misinformation and mistruths start to get shared on social media or on other platforms, and then that information comes to the police, we now have to put investigators on that information, which is taking people away from potentially chasing down actual real leads that are actually based in fact. So that's the complication that can come from that. So there is a benefit for sure, but there's also, like anything, there's always, there's pros and cons to anything, and that can be the difficulty with this kind of thing.
So you're saying that these types of shows do tend to...
Oh, thanks, Kim. Oh, that was a perfect time for me to mute again. There's Sunny. Or thanks, Ginger. I thought it was Ginger or Kim that said I was muted. Yeah, thanks for complimenting my voice, guys. Thank you. Oh, Cheryl, I got your pictures too. I need to put up today because I forgot on the last one. I actually had them there and ready and everything, and I forgot because of my stupid new brain. I was saying, I had talked about that, where he was saying, that sometimes it can lead to all those tips that really aren't going to lead them anywhere, but then they have to take time to check up on these tips and take the tips and whatever and the resources, and it's tying up the line and whatever. I had talked about that in one of my other videos when the whole Darewood thing happened, and that's, and how that was frustrating me, because that's what that can do, and that's frustrating when that stuff is happening, and when you take a look at all that information yourself and you're looking at it and you know that, well, no, that doesn't really fit, right? But then he's encouraging everybody under the sun, because we have everyone globally watching all of this, and he's encouraging everyone to call in the tips regarding it. So yeah, so I totally get what he's saying there, for sure.
Generate an influx of tips.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Yep.
Right, and they have in this case.
Yep.
Right. You mentioned there's generate an influx. So you're saying that these types of shows do tend to generate an influx of tips.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Yep.
Right, and they have in this case.
Yep.
Right. You mentioned there's the pros and cons. Articulate what the pros could be.
Yep. So, for example, in looking at other investigations in the past, so we've received tips that basically would suggest to us that a certain person that was not known to investigators may be involved. And while we, at the time, we may not have anything to suggest that that person factually, like based in fact, is involved, there is a potential likelihood because they have an association to the principal parties involved in our investigation. So we'll go down that path, and sometimes that'll lead us to somebody that we wouldn't have known about before had it not been for that tip. So that's a huge pro. Like, that's great for us. But then we get the flip side where it's a person who may have crossed paths with one of our principal parties 15 years ago, and a rumor or something that's not based in fact gets shared on a platform that then it grows into this huge thing where people are sharing it constantly. The more it's shared, the more people believe that it's actually factual.
Yeah.
And then that comes to us, and now we're left to have to chase down this lead that has nothing to do with our investigation at all. But because it was shared so many times, there's a lot of credence that's given to the fact that, well, this must be true because it's been shared by 1,500, 2,000, 100,000 people, whatever the case may be. So it's just those are the pros and the cons that we have to manage when we're getting these tips.
And as you mentioned, that all ties up a lot of police resources.
It can, for
so
sure.
Talk about that impact.
Yeah, so obviously it depends on each investigation. It's looking specifically at our major crime investigations, these investigations do generally tend to span longer periods of time, sometimes months, even years. It's not uncommon to have 100+ investigators involved through the life of the file, basically looking at information or trying to direct us where that investigation is going to go. When we get these influx of tips, that is people that we could be potentially sending out to go interview somebody, or perhaps there's a piece of evidence that we need to go collect. It just begins to kind of limit the pool of people that we have available. Now, that said, if these tips are based in fact, then absolutely, that's a good dedication and a good use of resources to send our people to go do that stuff. It's when we get these tips that we know that they're not based in fact, or they're unlikely to be based in fact, we still have to send people to that. So now we're taking people away that could be doing something to benefit the investigation, to move the investigation forward. We're now sending them to go do something that we know it's not based in fact, but we have to ensure that we've proven that it's not accurate, because our burden is not to the court of public opinion. Our burden is to the courts and the criminal courts. It's obviously the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, and we need to ensure that we're not just picking the evidence that builds that is positive for our case. We also have to exclude and ensure that there's no evidence that would send us down a different path, as a different avenue, as a defense avenue, so those kinds of things, right?
And so just to let you guys know, you take the time to come to my channel, and so I'll explain to you how I do things, because I have received emails and things that certain things that certainly would be worthy of passing on to our CMP, but I won't put it on here because to me, and I won't even discuss it. I won't discuss it. I won't say, yeah, I got an email from so-and-so, but I can't talk to you about it. Like, I'm not even going to go there. You guys don't even have to know about it. If it's something that I choose that needs to be put in as a tip, it's never going to be ever discussed on here that I received that, or so, just to let you guys know, that's how I do things. Now, if I receive something that, it's just something that really isn't needing to be a tip, or whatever, and it can be shared, I would share it. But if it's at the other end of the spectrum, I'm not even gonna go there, discuss it, say I got information from somebody, but it's anonymous, and I'm not gonna talk about it. But I did, received some information. Like, it just doesn't even have to be discussed. And if something is worthy of a tip, it should just be that one person passing that on to the RCMP, not put out there to everyone, thousands, like he said, thousands and thousands of people, and then somebody else gets it and passes it on, and it's passed on, and then they're getting this ridiculous amount of tips on their tip line, and that's not a good situation.
We just have to be. It's just one of those things of management of resources, and it can tie up a lot of people sometimes for a long time for things that we know are not accurate, but we don't have a choice. We have to do our due diligence. We have to chase that down.
Given that the rise of the true crime community being more participatory in this day and age, talk about that as it pertains to police investigations. Is this seen as a good thing, a bad thing, or is it sort of, are you of two minds?
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I think just the dawn of not just true crime, but social media generally, like we're much more interconnected than we were even 15 years ago when I started policing. Facebook and these kinds of things were just beginning to grow in popularity compared to what they are now. And just the way that we get our information just generally, a lot of that information comes from these platforms. And even for yourselves as journalists, there are people that are beginning to go away from that, which also makes your guys' jobs very, very difficult. And we're in that same boat. So for me, like from my personal experience, the rise in true crime podcasts and the rise in followings and people participating in our investigations, there is a benefit. There's for sure a benefit. We've seen the benefit on our investigations previously. The difficulty just becomes when people, take everything that comes out of these as proven fact, when often there's very little that's done to actually prove that any of the information is actually factual, right? Like as a police officer and as an investigator, we have to corroborate every single piece of information that we have to either say that yes, this is accurate or no, it's not. True crime podcasts, documentaries, these kinds of things, they're not necessarily held to the same standards. So it makes it that's the difficulty that comes from that, right? So you're looking at one, it's not just that, there's also the monetization of, people are doing these things and it's great. Everybody obviously needs to earn a living. That's not, I don't have any difficulty with that. It's just when we're talking about people that are doing these things, they're obviously trying to monetize it and trying to earn money for themselves. And that can obviously sometimes cloud the issue, and especially when we get to this fact-based, driven discussion that we're trying to have. And people that want to participate and have that discussion with us, we're more than happy to. Like, absolutely. It's just this, difficulty with things that are not fact-based.
So the message would be to the public would be to be aware that these types of shows don't have the same standards that the police do, that journalists do,
Exactly.
that not to take these things as fact.
Exactly, right? So,
And I agree. And I always say, do your homework. Like for me, I will watch a show for a while, kind of in the bushes, as they say. And I'll decide if I find that show is holding themselves to a standard. Um, it, and if they're making sure things are fact-based and evidence-based, and if they're speculating, that they make sure to say that, it's total speculation, and, things like that. Yeah, so, that and then after I've watched for a bit, and decide, I could be watching 5 different channels, and out of those 5, 2 of them I'll decide, okay, this is a channel that I feel comfortable with, that's holding themselves and their channel to a standard. So, excuse me.
everything that the police is doing has to be based in fact. Same thing for you as journalists. Everything has to be based in fact, and not just beyond trying to do our jobs, but the ethics associated to that has to be based in fact. And unfortunately, when you get into people that are starting off their own venture, they're doing this out of their home, or it's a private venture. Most things come from a good place, and they're trying to help. It's just the difficulty of having that understanding that the information that you share, once it's out into the world, it's very difficult to control where that information goes, and sometimes it grows, and then it comes to you as either journalists or to us as the police, and we're now left with having to actually make the determination: is this factual? Is this accurate? When it's perhaps at the forefront somebody who's involved in that type of a podcast or that platform. If they have the ability to do their due diligence immediately, then it might actually be helpful and beneficial to us that we have a better understanding that the information coming to us, may actually already be factual because someone has just done a little bit of fact checking just to ensure that it's not, some theory that really has no basis or foundation in fact.
You've mentioned that YouTube shows have generated tips in this investigation. Is there anything else you can point to in how YouTube true crime shows have impacted the investigation of Lilly and Jack?
So that's a hard one because I'm not completely other than doing the interviews and the few things, and I've chased down some of these tips, but beyond that, I don't have the day-to-day knowledge to answer that question for you. That's a hard one. Sorry.
Are these types of shows something that police monitor outside of receiving these tips?
No, not generally, because there's just so many of them. I think it would be very difficult to, outside of the work that we're doing day to day, it would be something that we would need to do in our off hours, and there's just only so many hours in a day. So no, it's not generally something that we monitor. Of course, if something is being widely shared, then we're people too. So the odds are, even in our personal lives, we might have seen this information, and we're like, okay, that may be something that we need to look into, because this actually may be factual. You're at home, kids are running around the backyard, and you're just scrolling, and you see something on Facebook or YouTube, whatever the case may be, and you think, oh, that actually might be relevant. We need to perhaps look at that. So that for sure happens, but it's not something that we're actively monitoring or looking at. No.
Right. Some family members have expressed that they're turning to these types of platforms amid a lack of answers in this case. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think that's the difficult balance. So it's not even just cases that are continuing to be under investigation and can be for a very long time. It's also cases that are before the court. We have to be very careful with the information that we share publicly, of course. But the information that we provide to families, of course, we provide them more information than we do generally with the public. I think that goes without saying. But any information that we ultimately share, like anything, once it's out into the world, we don't have control with where that information goes anymore. So it's a very difficult balancing act for our family liaison officers to try and manage. This is what we know, but we also have to be very careful, because this piece of evidence may relate back to a specific piece of evidence that other people may not be aware of. And now if that's out in the world, then we have difficulty with kind of controlling the knowledge of this evidence and perhaps strategically how we're going to use that in our investigations.
So she said this case, so of course she's speaking of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Excuse me. And they had said publicly that they're having discussions with one family member of Lilly and Jack. So, of course, the assumption would be that that is Malaya, the mother. And, her question, I'm sure, is pertaining to Belinda, right? Poor Belinda, who is very, very, boisterous for her grandchildren, keeping their case alive, keeping their names out there, doing the media interviews. Even Janie and Daniel wouldn't be getting information because they're not blood relative at all. Sorry, guys. I had to open the window here, and it's probably affecting my allergies a little bit. So, so he's explaining that, right? That they have to keep that to a minimum, obviously. So unfortunately, Belinda doesn't get the information that Malaya would be getting. And I always wondered too, like he said, where they have to, stop what information they are giving out to a minimum of the people they're giving it to, so one, and the information that they are giving that one person. So to me, always felt that that's why Malaya is quiet, because if you're going on YouTube, as we see others doing related to the case, that's where you can end up making some slips, and you don't want to do that. So I always wondered that.
So there's just all these things for us it's a very, very delicate balancing act. Of course, we're people too. We would love to be able to provide all of the information at a moment's notice to everybody at all times. But unfortunately, like our mandate and what we're trying to get to is we're ultimately trying to either find somebody who's missing, trying to get justice for somebody who's been harmed, you know, a murder victim, even not looking at major crime investigations, but other just more, I suppose, run-of-the-mill investigations like assaults, those kinds of things. Like, you know, our job is to try and get some form of justice for survivors of these types of things or for victims. And releasing too much information, providing too much information may be counterproductive to that end. So the information that we do share is basically being done in such a way to try and, you know, especially to families, try and give them at least some understanding of what's happening, but also trying to protect that investigation that directly relates to their loved one in order to not, you know, potentially jeopardize something and then we're just completely unable to actually solve what happened, because that would be worse, I think, in my view, than I'd rather get less information, but the police can do their job and potentially get justice for my loved one than, you know, they told me too much and now the investigation's jeopardized and there's nothing more that can be done.
Is there any other scenarios where these types of shows can benefit police and investigations?
Yeah, absolutely there is. You know, I think that especially if we look at documentaries, there's been documentaries about some of our older files in the past, and some of these documentaries or podcasts even about some of our other files, there is, like, it's getting that information to a new audience that may not necessarily be on social media, who's not getting that information or doesn't know that this thing has happened.
Now that I really like that he touched on that, because that's one thing I've talked about before in earlier videos is not everyone watches the news anymore. There's a lot of people that are done with mainstream media. They just don't go there anymore. And they watch more of what's going on YouTube. And again, like I said, be careful and make an informed decision. That's important, you know. And man, with this case, there was so much of that really bad clickbait fake stuff out there. It was terrible. It was all done by that AI and it was disgraceful. I know I reported quite a bit of it, and I know Kent said he did too, and I'm sure others did as well. Well, I know one of them I went into and to state that it was disgraceful, and I was reporting it, and every other comment as I went down had said the same thing. So there's many people reporting it, you know, those that stuff, that AI stuff and the terrible stuff that goes out. But outside of that, the other channels, again, you have to do your own homework as anything else, right? Yeah.
And from that, we then get new tips from people that otherwise wouldn't be participating, I suppose is probably the best word to use. So there's definitely a benefit. Like for me, from my opinion, I guess the biggest thing in my experience is that there is a big benefit. But it's like anything, there's risk and reward to anything that we do. You know, even outside of policing, just generally life, there's risk reward to everything. It's just about managing the information that's not factual. That's where the difficulty comes with this, and then it's having to take people away from chasing down potentially factual information that have to also deal with this non-factual information. That's really all it is. Like, that's just the biggest con is that. But I personally think that there's a huge upside to it.
And is there a situation or case that you can point to help the public understand what the benefits can be, a sort of practical?
Now, did you hear what he said, guys? He said, personally, I think there is a huge upside to it. I thought that was great. That was really nice of him to say that and be honest and say that.
Example of that playing out.
Yeah. Great example, actually. So a few months ago, on the Esther Johns investigation specifically, a few months ago, there was somebody, so this one didn't actually come out of true crime, but they were aware of this person was aware of the case just by following social media and following our updates, you know, the updates from media, and then also just chatter in the community. There was an item that was, the person just happened to be walking, I believe, or was driving through the area, observed down by a riverbed, just down in Greenwood, and they called the office here because they knew to call the office here, and we went down and we were able to seize that item. We're still obviously trying to understand how that item fits into the overall investigation, but that's something that, had this person perhaps not been aware of this incident that occurred in the area by virtue of just following the information that's being shared on social media, they may not have thought that may or may not be relevant. They may just never have called. So, like I said, I really think that there is a benefit to it. It's just a matter of managing the good with the bad. That's really all it is.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it really just does raise the profile of the case,
Yep.
which can be beneficial to police because they then get information that they may not have before.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. We're almost 5 months from when Lily and Jack went missing.
Yep.
And we still don't know what happened to them. Why don't
He's going to touch on that, Solace. Yeah, he's going to touch on his role in it. And Ginger, I agree with your last comment that I had up there as well. And it's not only that he backtracks on, right? There's quite a bit that he backtracks on and changes the story. And which, okay. I mean, I always say, I don't know why. I really don't. Is it a personality defect? I've worked with people that are like that. I've had people in my life that are like that are just habitual liars, but they're not all red rummers at the end of the day, right? It doesn't mean they're a red rummer or that they're, have done anything nefarious and covering something up or anything like that. It's a personality defect, and I guess it's the best way I can describe it. So is that what it is with Daniel, or is it something more going on there? And we just don't know because we have 2 missing children that were under his care as well as their mothers. And so when you're learning about what his personality is like, in the midst of 2 missing children, you can't help but be suspicious. But as I said, people with that type of personality that are habitual at being untruthful and contradicting and whatnot, they're not, at the end of the day, they're not guilty of a crime, certain crimes or red rummers or covering crime up or whatever. So I get what you're saying. I wonder how many factual information came in from the theories JD and D were putting out on social media. Oh, I would say it was a lot. I would say that was a lot, because that was, he was saying himself, calling the tips, everyone calling. I was thinking, oh my Lord, the tip line's going to be, and I mean, then stuff like that makes me wonder, okay, is that intentional? Not saying it was, but you just can't help but ask that question, like, because that's quite a way to interrupt a case. Hi, JDR. Welcome in. Ginger, non-factual information came from a lot more people than those 3. Yeah, I agree. Also Malaya regarding Cody. Yeah. You guys are giving some good tips in there, man. I'm reading them. Yeah. I agree, Kent. Yeah, I do too. Did their theories generate this information is what I was wondering. The cop said something about 600 out of 900 tips. Whoa, wow. Yeah, hooah, that is a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
we know that yet?
It's a good question, and again, I don't have all the answers on that file, so it's a hard one for me to answer. I would say that, so it's not, there are there are other missing person investigations where we're kind of in the same position. You know, you could look at like the Zach Lefebvre investigation down in Yarmouth, for example. That's one from 2021. It's the same sort of thing, right? It becomes very difficult. Missing persons investigations can be very difficult, especially, you know, we'll stand up GSAR, we'll do all those things, and most of the time they're found very quickly. When we get to a position where someone has gone potentially off into a wooded area, those types of investigations can just be difficult. You know, you're dealing with wildlife, you're dealing with terrain, you're dealing with a lot of things that can make it very, very hard to try and find someone. So for specifically to Lilly&Jack, I really don't know. I don't have enough information to be able to give you that, but
it is still a missing persons investigation.
This is interesting.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I know they are missing. Whether it's the investigations in the criminal realm, whether it's under the missing persons realm, I don't know. I don't. Yeah. Other than, like I said, doing a few interviews and chasing down some of the tips. That's all I know about the file. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So. Solace, I think it was you that asked the question there. So there he had just explained his role. The last thing I've heard, or that we've heard, that it is still under the Missing Persons Act, but anything can change from the last time we heard it, right? We could be told that, and within an hour it could change. We don't know, right? He doesn't know.
Tell me about those tips you chased down.
Yeah, so it's the same things. These tips came in, from what I remember, they were just people that happened to be following some of the information on social media. And I can't remember if there was information from the RCMP or if they read something from media outlet. But either way, it came in for basically somebody just saw something online. They called, they provided information, and then I was assigned, myself and another member, we were assigned to go talk to those people and then provide the information that they gave us back to the investigators, the main investigators, who then determine whether that's factual or not.
And was it relevant?
I don't
agree.
know.
Okay.
So that's the thing with our files is not to get into a huge big discussion about
Sure.
files in terms because it's complicated, but there are 3 people that manage the day-to-day, that manage the overall investigation. Everybody else that's involved with the investigation is assigned a task. They go chase down that task, they provide the information back, and then they're given a new task and they go back out and run that task. So they don't, other than the information they have specifically gathered, they're not privy to what the other 30 police officers are doing. Only the main investigators are privy.
Yeah, I agree. The Pond and Hi, welcome in. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think he actually is just touching on that right now. Yeah.
Go back out and run that task. So they don't, other than the information they have specifically gathered, they're not privy to what the other 30 police officers are doing. Only the main investigators are privy to that information, and they're the ones that are making the decisions about where things go based on the evidence and the information that's being gathered. So unless you're in the triangle, as we call it, all I would know is the information that I gathered. I don't know what the other people gathered, so I don't know if it was accurate, factual, or not.
And just articulate again the message to the public who are consuming these shows, consuming what they see on social media. What's your message to them?
So my message to them would just be like anything. The shows, as much as they, most things, like I choose to believe that most things start from a good place. Ultimately, these are shows that are generally being created to be monetized by the creators of the show or by the creator on that platform. And that information that they're gathering, it'll be widely shared, but the fact checking is, minimal or sometimes non-existent. And people do tend to believe the more that it's shared, the more factual something is. Just because something is shared a million times doesn't make it more factual. It's no more factual than if it was only shared one time. So that's all. It's just a matter of, I would just suggest any information you consume from any source is always just, kind of think about it critically and perhaps try to do your own independent, fact checking if you want to, before you kind of come to a conclusion or an opinion about, form an opinion about whatever it is that you're watching. So that's really all it is. I guess take things with a grain of salt. Probably the best way to put it.
And you mentioned YouTubers can and are monetizing this content, which some experts would say deduces the victims of crimes or the families of the victims of crime or missing persons investigations are kind of reduced to content, consumable content. Do you have ethical concerns with that, in dealing with the people who are dealing with a tragic loss or a tragic situation?
For sure. I think even to boil it down to the simplest, to perhaps the simplest example, a car crash, a fatal car crash on a highway, and there are people that are at the collision that are sharing photos and imagery from that collision, but the police aren't there yet, and the ambulance isn't there yet, and we don't know what we have, and somebody may have died and is now in a road where we're trying to get there, we're trying to determine who they are, and then we need to find their families to inform them. Before we can do any of that, this information is already being shared, and I know from personal experience, family members have found out that their loved one was deceased on a highway.
Somebody around here did that one time, and that is disgraceful. That's horrible to do that.
From that. So it's like anything. The information that we're sharing, we don't always necessarily think about the impacts on the actual people that are living with this day to day. And that can be certainly difficult when you talk about true crime podcasts, true crime YouTube videos, any type of online platform where we're sharing and creating this kind of content. There is a family at the end of the day, or there are loved ones, there's family, there's friends, there's a whole community that is impacted by whatever incident it is that we're discussing. And I do think that probably there are times when those people we're not thinking enough about the impact on those people and this information being shared, and just the constant the constant stream of the information, right? Like, you can try and turn it off, but it's one of those things, we're so interconnected now that you're going to see it almost anywhere you go. So yeah, so there are definitely concerns for sure.
And what can that impact be?
So it can just be just on the family, right? Like, so, when there's a difficult thing that's happened to you, obviously the healthiest thing to do is try and deal with that, get supports to try and deal with it, and try and kind of move through it in a healthy way. But if you're constantly living in that, and there's constant information just constantly being shared through the days, the weeks, the months, sometimes the years, that person is living this every day, and it's very difficult for them to get out of that cycle. So, a year from now, 2 years from now, the information that gets shared, that's continuing to be shared, they're still living with that, and it makes it difficult for them to then try and move past that. Obviously, when we're talking about like police investigations, those are hard, especially missing people where we haven't found the person, because then the closure's not there, and we are keenly aware of that, and that's what we're constantly working towards, to try and get closure for a family. But it does make it difficult for them when this is something that's always in the background, that is always there for them, but then it keeps being brought to the forefront constantly, and that's, I think, probably the hardest part and the hardest impact on a family, is that it consumes. It goes from being something that they're living with and trying to manage, to it can consume their entire lives, and that can be very, very difficult. And it's very, very difficult for sure.
So I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, so True Ginger and also new slots on popular TV programs are always the highest priced ads. Yep, for company to advertise as well. I don't think so, Offspring. I don't think. Um, I hope not, because people shouldn't be when you're, searching for missing missing children. Yeah, so hi Truth and Beauty, thanks, and Margaret, thanks, Olive, thanks to all of you for being here. If anybody I missed, I'm sorry. Betty, thanks for being here. Um Yeah, so you said about Daniel. Now I'll call him DT so we don't get confused. So DT from the Drunk Turkey Show, or the DT Show, stated that he's going to be doing an interview with Daniel. Um, Now, myself, I would take that with a grain of salt until I actually see it take place. And I did check his channel, and I don't see anything booked as an upcoming date there for that. Has anyone been cleared completely besides Cody? Well, my opinion is actually it'll be easier for me to go over to the Drunk Turkey show and read my comment that I had in there. And it'll just let you know where I stand right now with this whole thing of saying that, you know, certain people have been cleared, and you keep using that word cleared. I think they're working towards it. But I, like, personally, think using that word for some people just yet is a bit strong. So what video was that? I actually didn't watch all of that video. I don't know why it shows I watched all of it. Sometimes it keeps going even when I come out because I have paid for that where it keeps going on your phone in the background. I had to tap out of it because I was feeling disheartened with some things that were being stated. But I think it was this one. Yep, there it is. And that this comment that I put in, as you can see, oh, maybe you can't see it. Can you guys see it? Let me make it bigger. It caused quite a stream of comments there. Why can't I make that bigger? Oh, I guess you can't make the comments bigger, so you guys can't. I don't think you guys can actually see that, but I'll read it to you anyways. I'm not going to read the replies back. I'll just read to you what I wrote, my thoughts, where things are about stating that, certain people are cleared. So I said, DT, hi, I'm from the area. I talked about the Carissa Boudreaux case. I did a video on it, and you need to check out the Carissa Boudreaux case. The officer stated in a press conference, because he was going over the documents in this video and saying, they're cleared, and it had stated at this time in the investigation, we don't have reasonable grounds to believe, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? So I said, you need to check out the Carissa Boudreaux case. And now, for those of you that don't know, the Carissa Boudreaux case is a case where she went missing. The mother reported her missing. They found her eventually unalived. And they had started to suspect that the mother had did something, but they could not get anything on her. So the officer stated in the press conference, at this time in the investigation, we do not have reasonable grounds to indicate, and he specifically said her mother, he specifically said, has anything to do with her death. Behind the scenes, they were 100% investigating her. She did unalive her daughter, and they did eventually get her, and they did it through the I'm going to call it the Mr. B sting, and I hope you guys understand what I'm saying, because YouTube doesn't like you talking about that. I had some of my comments deleted in this thread, the last two comments I had sent to DT, and I don't believe he deleted them. It was discussing the Mr. B sting and another case, and because he had asked me, well, what is that? What does it entail type thing? And I had tried to answer him. And YouTube, I'm pretty sure it was YouTube, wouldn't allow me, because one time when I had a discussion in my own chat with somebody and we had, we're having a civil conversation as well as DT and I did about the Mr. B, and just pretty much the same idea as what was being discussed here. The same thing happened. My comments were deleted and the other person's were as well. And that's my own channel, and I knew I didn't delete them. So it was definitely somehow YouTube. Somebody did something and YouTube deleted them. So I'm thinking that's what happened here as well. And so be it. That's whatever. Anyways, so in my opinion, okay, so she did on a live, and yeah, so I'm not saying Daniel and Janie did anything, but that above statement does not clear anyone. And that's just in my experience of following cases over years and years and years and years. Now, he's ex-law enforcement, so maybe, he's definitely seeing some in this in a different way than I am. But having followed cases and having followed a lot of cases that our CMP have, done, have been involved in, anyways, also having no digital footprints, and this is really important to me, because this bugs me when people do this with the whole digital footprints thing. Also, having no digital footprints does not clear anyone. There was crime before digital footprints. Now we have, and I mean, that's just common sense. We didn't have the technology that we have now forever and ever and ever. Prior to this, there was crime, and there was ways that crime was investigated without digital footprints, and it's still done when there is no digital footprints. And so I said that would be a poor investigative technique to not see it as a bonus tool, and to continue and to to not see it as a bonus tool and to continue to investigate beyond that. And I think it's insulting to the RCMP as well to say that. Because if the RCMP just go, well, no digital footprints here, and just throw their hands up at that, nothing to see here, that's pretty poor investigating on their part. And I do not believe at all that our CMP would do that, or any other law enforcement around here. Daniel's vehicle being towed and being coincidentally caught on a traffic violation is most definitely strategic. And if you guys saw my last video, I went over that whole thing. The other case that was here where the young man was, eyes were on him. His girlfriend went missing. She was abducted. It wasn't by him. It was by somebody else. He had nothing to do with it. But until they were had enough evidence to go in the correct direction, well, of course they're going to be looking at him and, keeping their eye on him. So they did. And so, so being coincidentally caught on a traffic violation is most definitely strategic on the part of Ellie, because they did this exact same thing to the other young man, and he was very similar in Daniel personality, not really following rules and the rules of the road. This was also done to the boyfriend of a 19-year-old who went missing here a few years ago. It was actually more than a few years ago, I realized afterwards. The boyfriend was innocent, but until law enforcement were onto the actual perp who did abduct her, the boyfriend was not cleared. Being that Daniel recently had his vehicle towed, I wouldn't go as far yet to say he's cleared. This is definitely a tough case, and until the RCMP have something more definitive, and they use that word themselves, to point them in a concrete direction, and I put in brackets because to me that is most likely locating Lily and Jack, and so in brackets, which seems most likely will be finding Lily and Jack, in my opinion. In my opinion, no one is cleared, and every avenue will continue to be investigated. That doesn't make anyone guilty, but that RCMP is doing absolutely everything to find Lily and Jack. Again, not saying Daniel, Janie, or anyone else did anything, just being realistic that our CMP has not cleared anyone just yet. And that's where I stand. So, yeah. So just thought I would share that with you guys. And it gives you an idea of where I stand, just being familiar with, RCMP from being in the area, and from following. I mean, I followed so many. I pretty much know every case, guys. Like if you guys said a name of a case to me, I mean, because of my memory, I might have to refresh. But honestly, I've pretty much followed everything, to be honest with you. Truth and Beauty, I'm going back to try to find that, to click off your comment, and I can't find it. Uh, oh, okay. Well, I see where Osprey asked about. Okay, our news media don't pay. Yeah, I didn't know. No. Uh, JDR, I bet if M was offered money for an interview, she would show up. Well, Dolly offered her. Somebody probably already said it in the chat, but Dolly offered her, and I think it was $5,000, and no go. So came in for a second, Nova. Love your channel. I am pretty sure the kids went missing the day they were last seen on camera. The parents know Malay left. No parent would do that. Uh, you would say, would you say? Not totally. I mean, not totally, but I respect your thoughts and I get what you're saying. I do. Yeah. I don't know about this. There are government grants and supports for parents of missing or red rum children in Canada. Example, the Parents of Red Rummed or Missing Children grant. Really? I didn't know about that either. Interesting. Well, if Belinda becomes the the parental role for Jack and Lily, guardianship, I think it's called. And if she wants to go further with trying to, make change in certain areas, that could be something she could look into. I don't think they can clear anyone until the kids are found. Exactly the pawn. I agree, and that's why I say, and I hate saying it, but they are the big piece of evidence. I hate to say that. But sometimes that happens, because they'll. I just hate the thought of it. If they can find Lily and Jack and show that, okay, there's nothing nefarious that took place here. It seems they did wander off and expired of the elements. So be it, right? And then there's the other, right? It could end up showing that. So without them, I just don't think there's that definitive direction to go in. JDR Dolly offered, yeah, exactly, Carol. JDR Dolly offered, and she never did an interview. Yeah. JDR didn't. Yeah. Yep. You guys remembered that too. Wonder you didn't get blocked on there. Well, it was pretty civil conversation. It was pretty civil. I mean, sometimes you just, it might be, I don't know, on how you word stuff. I don't know. Somebody did comment back because he had asked me about did they polygraph Penny Boudreau, Carissa's mother, and I have had a couple of people tell me. See, the thing in Canada is you won't know what was done because Canada is not like the US. You will not get that information. Even after the case is said and done, you're not going to get that information. And the only reason why we gain any information regarding Jack and Lily is because of media and their high-paid lawyers who know what to do to get around, work around those corners, or you know what I'm saying. So that's how that information came out. And then they then shared it with us, right? Or I think it might have been Belinda, and then Belinda shared it with us, or however it went. But anyways, it came into our hands. But I mean, I've never seen that before, and I'm sure Kent or anybody else from Canada would say the same thing. So you won't know that stuff, like especially with RCMP, like you're not going to know that stuff. So I can't confirm if that is true or not, that Penny Boudreau in fact did take a polygraph and passed. I would never repeat that because I can't confirm it as fact. But he asked me that, and then I answered that and said, well, I've heard that she did and she passed, but I've never been able to uh, find out if that's fact. So it's not something I would want to speak to. And then somebody said a nasty comment to me, which to me, that should have been, like, if that was in my comments, I would have deleted that. I wouldn't have banned the person, but I would have deleted that comment. I don't allow that stuff. But what parent would leave in case their kids came home? Yeah. Any parent here, would you leave? I would if I thought my life or the one remaining child's life was at risk of anything. And I'm being truthful. And, and so did that happen? We don't know. We know that they asked her that day, do you feel safe here? And I, did the video regarding what would prompt them to ask that question. Because as law enforcement and healthcare, I'm a nurse, we're not trained to just ask every single person that. If your child went missing today, or your grandchild, and you had to call your law enforcement in, I don't think they're going to ask me that. They're not going to come here to try to help me find my grandchild and say, do you feel safe here? Unless something's going to prompt them to say that. So that's just something I file in the back of my mind, and it's a fact that we know that was it's facts. It's, again, none of that's not a fact. I wouldn't be talking about it. Yeah. Careful DT doesn't block you like he did to Charmaine. Well, I wouldn't care if he did, to be honest with you. I mean, it just, stuff like that doesn't bother me. Like if someone blocked me, I wouldn't even mention it. I wouldn't even, you guys wouldn't know. I'd be like, oh, well, whatever. That's, that's person's channel and whatever. Yeah. I mean, you guys can go in and read our conversation. It was pretty civil, but like I said, 2 of my comments were deleted. The last 2 comments I had sent to him, and then I didn't bother after that because I couldn't change how I was trying to answer him because it was about Mr. B, and about another case that involved Canada and the U.S. RCMP and U.S. law enforcement working together on a certain case with the Mr. B. And anyways, they were like, boom, boom, gone like that. And the same thing happened in my comments. So I don't believe it was him that did it. I believe it was, and I know that can happen. It's happened before. It'll happen if you discuss certain things with media. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just coming down a bit, guys, to get caught up. So if I do skip some of your comments, I'll try to go to questions. Did she pass Polly's too? If you're talking about Malaya, she was, the way they word it in the documents is truthful. Yeah. Truthful. The Pawn Nova did a live about the case. You should go look it up. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Penny. Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess I just went into that. Yeah, I'm behind in the chat, but I don't discuss a poly in the video I did because, like I said, if I don't have that as a fact, which it would only be through the documents, um, like the people that have said to me that they, that she did and she passed, they're doing some research on RCMP polygraphs in Nova Scotia and who has passed when they were actually guilty. And so they've said in that research that they're doing that they found that information, but I've never been able to find it myself to confirm it. So I can't say that myself. I would not say that. Yeah. Uh, I watched it. She's the only one so far that brought it up, and I keep telling people to check it out because it's so yeah. Well, their tactics, right? And the thing is, when he was sitting there in that interview saying that, they were on to her then. He was totally, totally lying. And he wasn't the RCMP officer who was actually investigating, who was doing the sting. The RCMP were doing the sting, and he was the actual municipal officer who wasn't a part of the sting, but he was, also working. They initiated the case, and then of course had to bring in federal RCMP to do the sting and all that. But he was like totally lying his face off when he was sitting there saying that. Yeah, because as she was doing her interviews and doing the fake crying and, "Oh, I just want her home, and I don't want any other parent to ever go through this with a missing child," and doing her interviews and, they were totally onto her, and you can actually see him in one of the interviews, that officer turn and look at her, and you can almost read what he's thinking, on his face. Pretty interesting. Yeah, you remember that well. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, uh, yeah, exactly. That's my feeling as well. In any case I ever followed, I've never really, anytime I hear that, I don't even, it's as I'm following the case in my mind, I don't go, oh, okay, they're innocent. They passed that poly. Never, never. Because I've learned by the time you get to the end of the case, no, like some of them are guilty. So no. No, and I always said, even before they did the polys, out of all of them, the one person I would think that has that type of personality that could pass a poly would be, and you know where I'm going, in my opinion, would be him. Yeah. And that's not to say that's so. It's just that I'm not ready to say clear. I did say a joke in Justin's chat last night, though, that the bear, the raccoon, and the crazy barefooted person has been cleared. And then and if you guys have watched some of DT, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And he's saying that barefooted print, maybe it's a crazy person that runs around in the woods like they have in the Appalachian Mountains. Well, no, we don't have any of those around here that I'm aware of. We did have an ex-military man who was from the States and came to Canada, and he lived there out that way for the longest time as a hermit, as a real hermit, like a true hermit. Okay, Margaret, thanks for being here. Lots of love. Okay, I'm going to try to get down to the bottom here, guys. Yes, finding solace, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And they were. That's what they were doing with her. Yeah, they were doing and analyzing her big time. And that's what I was talking about and with DT there too. Like, But I don't even think he got to see any of that because YouTube, it just went blink. Yes. Yeah, the pawn this vehicle would have nothing to do with the original incident unless it was movement, yeah, after the fact, because he only got it a month ago. And that's the other thing, like, when it's stated that, well, it would have just been easier to ask him to, hey, can we go through your vehicle? Because he's always cooperative. But I mean, hello. Law enforcement likes to catch people off guard sometimes, not always in the other way of being cooperative. Do you know how often they find certain things out by catching people off guard? So whether it had anything to do with that or just the fact that there's been so much talk about the rug thing and they wanted to catch him off guard with that. But yes, exactly, Ken. But there's no doubt in my mind it has to do with what's going on here. And I mean, geez, if there was anybody on the earth that you'd want to give a break to, would be somebody who's going through this and you know what's going on in their life. Um, I mean, because it's not like law enforcement and I don't know who he was pulled over, whether it was RCMP or municipal, and if it was municipal, which town or whatever, right? But I mean, it's not like they don't give people breaks. They do. We know that. I know that from living here. But, if there was anybody in the world that you'd want to give a break to and say, like, oh, this individual's going through a really tough time right now, right? And, Daniel, get home with this vehicle. Do not move it out of the yard. And you need to get your crap together, you would think that would be the time they'd want to give somebody a break, right? But anyways, just my thoughts. Yeah, and yeah, they certainly do like to catch you off guard sometimes. They don't always want it, they don't always want to have it as a discussion. We'd like to do this and that, and yeah, Dolly can afford to offer more than that. I thought the same thing, JDR, but good on him for offering the 5. I guess the way he looks at it, if people have rug issues, they're going to probably take $5. But I don't think that's an issue now with her, and I don't know if it ever was, but I'm just joking. Uh, Malaya leaving is what caught my attention in this case and made me think there was more going on. Yeah. Yeah, that. And then when she asked for the birth certificates and the 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 one stuffed toy each of the child and their last pictures taken there, which I'm assuming is the school pictures because she's got tons of pictures of them. Made me think something's wrong here. And I've talked about it before that those items to me are items that a mother puts in a memory box of a child who's passed on, who's gone. Because I've seen it with my friend who had all her little fella stuff in a little box. And that's what was in there. So yeah, I was wondering that too, what those grants would be for, but I'm gonna stuff like that when I go, I wonder what that's all about. I write it down and then later I'll read about it. The pond, he said it might need, it will close the case. JDR, they to help with time off work, etc. Okay, that makes sense. Yes, that makes sense. Well, yeah, Malaya won't be needing that. Malaya left with Meadow and got away from Daniel. Possible. That's a possible thought, right? But that's, in my opinion, that's a possibility. at the end of the day, and I always say, none of us know. And the only people that know, hopefully, are the RCMP, or that they will eventually know if anything nefarious took place. And hopefully it didn't. Hopefully it didn't. You know, it could be that they wandered off out there on their own and that they are still out there and not located. We don't know. I don't believe the theory that Malaya put together this whole thing of them being taken away somewhere. I've looked at that hard, and in my opinion, it just doesn't fit. But I could be totally wrong. Ginger, well, hopefully D&M won't apply for it. I don't think that they could. Daniel, I don't think definitely couldn't. And Malaya doesn't work, so they have no work. Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't working around corners, Nova. It's because pretty much all that information was already out there. They just put it on the record. Oh, now I can't remember what because of my memory. I remember saying it, but I can't remember what I was talking about when I said it, but you're probably right. Whatever it was that I said about it. No, it wasn't working around corners, Nova. It's because pretty much all that information was already out there. They just put it on the record. I wish I could remember what I said. Okay, I don't want you guys to think I'm skipping anything that you're saying, that it's not important. It's just that I am so far behind now. I got to get to the end. Hi, Carla. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, they did, Kent. I think it was like 7 months. Lori Green, hi. Thanks for coming in. Marilyn, hi. Thanks for coming in. Yes, Kent, they did. Yeah, I already feel that the RCMP just need a break and find the evidence. Yeah, they're following something. I hope so. I hope so. Oh, it was Westville Police. Okay. Yeah. Geez, they didn't let him get too far, did they? Because Westville's the first town he would be coming through as he was coming out of Lansdowne through the country roads and then into Westville. Don't forget all the children's clothing. The clothes were in the bags. Yeah. And they were all you're confusing me. Stop confusing me. Oh my God, you're going to have to come on because I don't know what you're talking about and you're getting me confused. And I'm going to be off here in 15 minutes anyway. So come on for 15 minutes and you and I'll wrap this up together. There's the link, Kent. 15 minutes. And then I know it's your supper time and I have to go prepare supper too. Coming, Kent? Hi, Lynn. I think about a month and a half ago, maybe around there, give or take. Maybe Kent already left for his supper. That's the other thing. RCMP clearly said they're going to be here for a few weeks with the cadaver dogs. So I'm going to stick by what they're saying until they say they're gone. That they are gone. Yeah. Kent, click the button. Click the link. No. Well, no. No, not from originally. But like if they're just, I mean, we're only speculating, right? Only they know why they did what they did. I just know it's not uncommon, is what I can say. It's not uncommon. It's been done before. It was done to Daniel, and it'll be done again, no doubt. All right. Yeah, explain to me what you're. I find when I get behind in the chat because of my short-term memory, I can't remember
I was going to
what.
say, don't you hate when the comments get too far ahead and then you
Oh
can't
my.
remember what you're talking about?
Yes, and it bothers me because I want to be able to chat with you.
So
Yeah.
the media was the one that was working. You said we're working around corners and using their high-priced lawyers to get us that information.
Oh,
But
did I?
it was the documents. The only reason I believe why that information was put out is because pretty much, like you say, we don't get that normally,
Exactly.
even if the media goes after it.
Right.
But all that information in those documents, except for the particular wording of it, as far as statements and stuff like that go, was already out there. So
Oh, absolutely. It was
when the
really nothing
request
new
was
to
made,
us.
yeah, when the request was made by the media, that was the main argument they were able to hear or able to put forth is, well, you put all this stuff out over time at your press conferences, so there's no need to hold it back and redact it other than names or dates and addresses, birth dates.
Yep.
So the RCMP said, yeah, it's on the record, put it out.
Yeah. I mean,
that's my belief. Like,
yeah.
like I said, we
in
don't
your
get
opinion, yeah, there
Yeah.
is other stuff in there redacted and not just personal information. But so, what was the other thing you were saying about the bags of clothes?
Well, that was the other thing on the list that she wanted when she wanted the birth certificates and the children's stuffed animal and the birth certificates and and stuff.
Yeah, but
she also asked for
later. The clothes, yeah, that was too different.
It was public later, but when she made the statement and the clothes were picked up later, but when she made the list of the stuff that she wanted,
it was on that list.
The children's, not her clothing.
No, but the original list she did had the bags of clothes on it for the kids.
Had children's clothing, yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, because when Daniel had stated that before, he didn't say the kids' bags of clothes. He just said the other stuff.
Yeah, and
I don't ever
he
remember
also
him
didn't
saying bags of clothes. That's new. The whole bags of clothes thing. That's new.
Yeah, well,
to
that's
me.
one of the things that he's saying that he was holding back And like,
Oh, okay.
and people say, well, Daniel, you said you had all of her belongings. Well, okay,
He
I can
did,
take
yeah.
both statements. I can take both statements as being true, because the way that I see it is Malaya wouldn't have all of her clothes dirty in the laundry. I'm sure they do laundry before they go through all their clothing, because you'd have a heck of a lot more clothing than you would undergarments. So you'd have to do laundry like every couple of weeks, at least if you got kids. Like, I know my sister, when she first adopted hers and they were at that age, she had 2 or 3 loads of laundry from every day almost, or
Oh my
every couple of
God.
days,
Oh my God, yes, and especially if you have a bedwetter too, it's unreal.
right?
Janie Doe, in my opinion, maybe the RCMP stopped Dee to take the opportunity to check the car in case the kids were moved in. And I mean, DT said that. My first thought was, like they want to rule everything out. They're not idiots, right? Like, I mean, let's be real. And you would probably want to catch the person off guard, not always be in the cordial way, of, hey, can I check your vehicle
But
today and come out? And
like the
uh
RCMP are out there, like they might not be at their place, but they're out there.
mhm,
Um, and I would say if they noticed a different vehicle in the yard,
mhm.
they would record what that vehicle is, and they would start uh, following, if
Keep
you
it
want to say that, an eye on
absolutely.
that vehicle,
Absolutely.
rather than stop it and take it from them,
Yeah.
hoping that
They
if
would
the worst case has happened,
yeah.
and that he would be going back to them and moving them again, or
Yeah.
whatever, if he figures that people are getting too close.
Yeah.
So
And
I
and
don't.
and they would have done that, in my opinion. This is all, guys, this is all in our opinion and speculation, okay? None of this is facts, and I want to make that very, very, very clear. We don't know.
No, but we do
But
know how the RCMP
the
operate,
RCMP work and other law enforcement around here, being from,
and
we're both from the area.
I've
And
towed for the RCMP,
yeah,
because I used to tow in Pictou.
yeah.
Um, so I can honestly see them, like you say, okay,
Hmm.
Daniel, driving home, keep it off the road till you get your insurance and registration,
Well, and especially knowing what he's going through, right? Like, that would
right?
be a person that, out of the goodness of your heart, you would want to give the guy a break, right?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but the RCMP would look at doing it. Okay, we got a vehicle to follow. Okay, young fella, you run right along, take this home,
Yeah.
right?
But since he got that vehicle, in my opinion, total speculation, they would have known as soon as he got that vehicle, because they're already watching, in my opinion. They're not going to
Oh
wait
yeah,
for him to
Jeff.
get a
Well, that's
vehicle
what
and
I'm
then start.
saying.
Right. So after, a month and a half goes by, then they may not have seen absolutely nothing. So they might want to make sure they didn't miss anything, right? Okay, well, we've not seen him do anything nefarious since he's had this vehicle, but we have to still now just make sure we didn't miss something, even though we've
But
been
they were
keeping an
going,
eye
like,
on
this
him.
happened. This happened on Friday, and they were going in Monday with the dogs,
Right. Yeah. Well, and the
right?
dogs were here as well. So who's not to say, total speculation, that the dogs didn't give that vehicle a quick sniff, right? Because the dogs were already here at that time. We know that. They weren't they weren't out there searching on the property yet, but they were in the county. Well, one of them was. One of them was, that we know of for sure.
Well, I think they were both here as far as being in Pictou County. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying, if they would have been just looking for, like, the purpose of the HRD dogs, they could have done that on Monday. They could have showed up on Monday and said, "Oh, you got a new rig? You mind when we run the dogs through that?" Rather than giving themselves away by stopping it, pulling it, towing it,
Yeah. But
right?
like I said, sometimes it's not always about, it we know that there's two ways of doing things: catching the person off guard, and then doing it the other way. And I mean, lots of times they've caught people doing stuff, but by catching them off guard. So it's not something that I wouldn't think that they wouldn't
Yeah.
do. And
I,
again,
I
none of that to me makes a person guilty because, like I said,
there's a lot more vehicles that I want to have those dogs sniff than that
absolutely.
Escalade that he bought a month ago.
And
Just
maybe
put
they
it that
have,
way.
right? Daniel's an open book, so we know what's going on there, right? Him and Janie both. But yeah, 100% agree. But like I said, and if anybody missed my last video, this is what they did to Mason Campbell, who, his girlfriend went missing. He had nothing to do with it. But same stuff was done, same tactics.
Yeah.
And he was totally innocent. It doesn't make a person guilty. It just shows that the RCMP are doing their job, police and law
Novah,
enforcement in Pictou County. Yeah,
can I ask you a question?
absolutely.
What do you think it means? I know we all have a list of areas where we think that they'll take the dogs or have taken the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think that it means if there's absolutely not a hit in any of those places?
Well, I'm gonna go
Other than the
along.
fact that, like, we know that they're not within the area to smell it. We know
Okay,
that's
well
a given, right?
that's the only thing I can say because that's what the RCMP have told us. But now it's up to them to, I don't think he would go as far as saying in that presser that we saw that Charmaine videoed, as to say, well, that means the person's innocent, or that this wasn't done. That'll be something they're probably going to come together again, look at all that evidence, and then make a decision. If they come to that decision, then they would publicly come out and tell us that, right? Eventually, maybe never, I don't know. But I would just have to go by what we know, what he said.
Well,
Now,
I
I can
think,
tell you just one second. Now, the places
yep,
that I think outside of the property and the areas, obviously, that we would know, shoe print, blanket, and whatnot, that they would search. I talked about this. I don't know if you've seen that video I did, that possibly, total speculation, the sawmill, the area that he said that he had texted to Malaya that he was in the woods and couldn't find his way out. And when I read that, it kind of sounds like that was prior to the kids going missing, but whether it was prior to or during the search, I think they might want to look there. Total speculation. And see, I had 3. Now I can't remember the other one. I'm sorry, but I had 3 areas that I thought, okay, these are probably some areas they would probably want to look. I can't remember what the third one was. But yeah, go ahead. And the vehicles too, as you said.
yeah. Well, I think there's, from Daniel saying that he's 100% sure that they're not in the woods on that CBC interview.
Mm-hmm.
I think he makes a statement like that, whether it's right or wrong for him to say it,
Yeah,
because he's starting to believe that the kids are still possibly alive.
I know.
Now, the other thing that could be on that, and it was Charmaine that we had a long discussion the other morning in our chat, and if something happened in accidental and or nefarious form on the property,
Mm-hmm.
it's not guaranteed for the dogs to hit on
No,
that property.
no,
And the reason
because
why that is,
yeah, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
if they were only unconscious
Mm-hmm.
and still living,
Yeah.
the decomposition process hasn't started.
Yep.
It takes about 20 minutes for fluids and whatnot after your heart stops to drain. And then the decomposition VOCs, which is what these dogs are looking for,
Yeah.
for that smell to kick in and to be able to be traceable. So if something happened and they were removed from the property right away, and this is why I say the vehicles may be more important than the areas,
Mm-hmm.
because then the actual death part of it would have, or could have, or possibly, in speculation, have taken place in a vehicle rather than on the property, and the property's going to come back squeaky clean.
Yep. Yep. Total speculation again, guys. Okay. Total speculation. I mean, anything is possible, right?
So I think there's probably around
And
10 vehicles that they'd want to look at.
yeah,
And I had those three, or well, you couldn't remember your third one, but definitely
it
the
wasn't the
immediate
vehicles, but
property.
I agree with you. But no, there was another one, and yeah,
You
you
had
go
a
ahead
third
there.
property. I think it was the properties that you listed, the immediate property, the mill, the blanket location, the
Yeah.
footprint location. I think Earl's property.
Yeah.
And I don't know if all your members know that Earl owns property in Loney or Lower Barneys River.
Yep. Well, I mean,
And
I knew that, and I mentioned it before, and that's where by the
on,
beach where that
yeah,
Daniel had mentioned. Yeah, Big Island Beach.
but on Mike's demands video, he shows the land plotment.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's surrounded and encased by other properties because it is just a woodlot. But if on any one of the surrounding main thoroughfares, there is right-of-way access across one of the other properties into Earl's property, then that would be another area location
Yeah.
where I would want to hit.
Yeah. I said, oh, actually, that is my other area. And I said that way, way, way. If you go way back and look at one of my earlier videos about the beach area, I said that way back then. I said,
That
I
was
hope they're
probably
checking
before I
down
knew you.
there. Yeah. Yeah. Offspring says, Kent, does Daniel have a stepbrother that lives in Glasgow?
Don't have a clue. I don't know the family.
Don't
All
you
I
have
know,
his
I
family
know he has
tree?
one brother, Justin. Other than that, I don't know.
Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows? I saw another question there, and then after that we can skedaddle because you got to eat your supper. Kenny is a diabetic, and I'm a nurse, and I know he's got to go take his sugars and he's got to eat a supper. You know
I
how
don't
this
take my
works.
sugars no more. I wear a sensor.
Oh,
No,
good,
I
good,
just
good,
look it up on
good.
the phone all the time. That I'm done
Yeah,
pricking my fingers.
that is awesome. Isn't it great? Isn't it great those things that come out? My sister
Well,
has
it
that
is,
too.
but if they can design them to last for 2 weeks, I'm sure they can design them to last for
To
a month.
longer. Yeah, yeah,
Like,
I agree.
but
Ginger says, "Do we know if our CMP got warrants to search all of the neighbors in the area?" I don't think I don't know that
from
information.
what they're
No.
saying on, is even the neighbor that DT is talking about, I don't, and like I say, it's my own speculation, but I don't think they had to get warrants to go searching. They probably had them, the same as Janie's trailer, the same as Janie's property, Earl's property, because if anything would have been found without having a warrant in place, when it goes to court, it might be declared admissible. That's the way our system works. So
Yeah,
I can see
exactly.
anywheres where they were searching or anything like that, even though they probably had permission, the same as they had the permission to bring the dogs on Janie's property.
They would still have a
I would
warrant.
still say that they had search warrants or at least conveyance warrants.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, if you didn't learn from my other videos or watching other content creators under the Missing Persons Act, that keeps that door wide open for them to easily access warrants
Yeah.
here in Nova Scotia.
They have a lot less of a threshold of probable cause. And that's where I think DT gets muddled up with a lot of stuff because he says,
Yeah.
oh, well, they need probable cause. Well, they have
No.
their probable cause with the
2
case
missing
still being
children.
under missing children.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's
So,
and that's different. I mean, that wasn't always here. That was after Amber Kerr went missing. And like
yeah,
you stated, the increase in dementia that we had that had wandered and went missing. And it was to be able to move quicker, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't always, and it's not in every province either. There's some other provinces in Canada, but we
Yeah.
are one of them. So, yeah. So, guys,
No.
I'm going to say
Anyways,
goodbye.
good show.
Yep. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks for inviting me up.
Yes, as always, nice to hear from you. Take
Alrighty.
care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, everyone, I am going to shut her down. I will close out with showing some of the missing persons that are still needing to be solved and some other cases that, are needing to be solved. And let's keep Darius in our thoughts as well. Okay. That just breaks my heart as well. I actually cried when I read that article. Oh, wait a minute. I want to show you guys pictures. Can you guys see that? Isn't that sweet? Now I'm trying to remember. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, my memory's so bad. Who was it that sent those? That's awful. Oh God, will it come to me? She did 3 of them. She did a really nice job. I want to say Valerie Wozniak. Valerie Wozniak. Does that sound familiar, guys? I'm pretty sure that's it. And they're gorgeous. Beautiful job. She said she's going to change the boots a little bit now that she saw the picture of the boots that I had up here one day. Yeah. Yeah. Let me check my email to make sure I have the correct name there. I'm sure it is Valerie Wozniak. Cheryl Wozniak. Cheryl Wozniak. Yeah. Sent those to me. They're precious. She did a really nice job. Sweet. All right, guys. I will close out with, like I said, the missing persons and a little bit of song there. If you guys want to finish up your chatting, go ahead. I won't close it out right away. Lots of love to you all, lots of positive vibes, and I will see you again sometime soon, hopefully. And for anybody that wants to know, this song is called The Swaying Silhouette. I saw that somebody had asked there one time, but it was when I closed the video out. I saw the comment then. It's called The Swaying Silhouette.